Hello and welcome to Painting with Steven episode 1. Good morning, afternoon or evening depending on where you are, and let's get right into it. So as you can see, I have painted the canvas with a black gesso and primed it, and I have also used orange and yellow acrylic paints to basically do like a little underpainting. The reason I've used acrylics is because acrylics dry faster than oils, and it wasn't really feasible for me to do an oil underpainting because that would essentially mean that I'd be waiting weeks for it to dry, which just wasn't feasible for this painting. So I've used acrylics, and in order to get the little circle for the sun, what I've actually done there is put down a little tea light candle and I have black gessoed the canvas and left that on. So then when I took it off, I had a little white circle where the white of the canvas was. And then what I've done is I have put a little yellow acrylic on there just so that it's got a nice little yellow hue, which will be important later. So as you can see, I am now putting in my greys for the clouds. So the clouds took a while to get right, but a lot of the time with oil painting it is trial and error and just doing things until they look good to you, until they're the way that you want. So basically I added in my greys. This is just a mixture of right now Paynes Grey and flake white hue, which is essentially a lead paint substitute. It's very difficult to get real lead paint now because, well, it contains lead and unfortunately lead is poisonous. Who would have thought? So we're not allowed it anymore. It's very difficult to get a hold of. I do think that you can get it in some places, but I think it's very hard to get a hold of, so I'm using flake white hue. Right now I am actually getting a rag and removing and blending out a lot of the grey that I actually already have on there, because I want the orange and the yellow of the underpainting to shine through. So I'm actually getting a clean dry brush and I'm blending all of that grey out just so that a bit of that orange and yellow is still shining through the clouds. Okay, so I'm going in now with some Ultramarine Blue mixed with Paynes Grey and Burnt Umber. Now Burnt Umber is very nice if you want to mute colour, okay, because sometimes colour can be too saturated for what you want, and so a little bit of Burnt Umber actually just mutes the colour, brings it down to a chroma that you're comfortable with. As you can see, this is sort of turning into a bit of a stormy sky here, right? And with a stormy sky, I don't want deep saturated blues. I want the colour to be muddy. I want it to be, you know, very moody, dark, murky. And so that's why I've added Burnt Umber to the blue with a Paynes Grey just to make it a little bit dark, okay? Around the sun though, I've definitely made the blue more saturated, although there is still Paynes Grey in there, right? And now I'm getting a fan brush and I'm just highlighting around where the sun is, right? Just to highlight my clouds and make sure that, you know, the sort of light from the sun is really popping on those clouds, you know. And in order to do that, I'm using a mixture of, I think it's Cadmium Orange and Naples Yellow. Naples Yellow is a lovely colour. It's a lovely colour if you want a nice subtle yellow, because it's not got the intensity and saturation of, say, cadmium yellow. It's more like a sort of nice mustardy colour, like a nice laid back, beautiful sort of murky yellow almost. So I've used that to highlight the clouds, and now I'm actually creating like a very, very small glaze over the sun with a cadmium orange. So how I've done that is I've got linseed oil, I've watered down the cadmium orange until it's essentially transparent, and then I've just added it to the sun over my acrylic yellow, so that you'll have the yellow shining through, but you'll also have the orange, then basically creating a stained glass window effect over the yellow. That is how I've done that sun. And now I'm adding in very dark darks, a mixture of umber and Paynes Grey into the clouds, just to add a bit more drama, a bit more intrigue to the painting. And I'm doing that at both sides. I'm also, darkening the corners a bit, just to sort of create, again, more drama in the sky, nice dark corners, making the light in the middle pop, okay? But my sun is dripping. So I'm taking a rag, kitchen rag, and I'm just wiping up the linseed oil that's dripping from my sun, because a dripping sun is no good for anyone, right? So I'm literally going in, just mopping up all of that linseed oil that's spilling. But I'm gonna have to do that multiple times in the painting, by the way. Also, I'm very, very sorry for the angle. When I was blending out my clouds with the fan brush, I do think that the canvas tilted a little bit, so I will be sure to get that right next time for episode 2. But yeah, right now I'm doing the sky, so I'm bringing in more of that blue, that ultramarine blue that's been, desaturated with my umber and my Paynes Grey, and now I'm just blending everything out with a brush, so it homogenizes, so that everything gels well, and just so that the sky looks a bit more uniform, right? And I'm mopping up my sun again. So, I think I did that about 3 times during this whole thing, and now I'm actually I'm taking more orange, more cadmium orange, but slightly thicker this time, just to thicken up that orange glaze over it. You can definitely still see the yellow through it, but I wanted the sun to be more orangey, so I'm adding a slightly thicker layer of cadmium orange, but it's not thick like the rest of my sky is thick. It's still watered down with linseed oil, and that actually is a good point. So the rest of my sky is essentially like impasto almost. I mean, it's not impasto, but I mean no linseed oil has been used in any of the sky. I like a thick oil paint, okay? I like to use the thickness of oil paint to my advantage when I paint something like this, and just in general I really do love the texture of oil paint. I like blending out oil paint exactly because of its thick consistency. So I'm using, again, like unwatered down oil paints to do pretty much all of this apart from the sun. So now I'm going in and I'm silhouetting my little sketch of this lighthouse. So this lighthouse is in Jersey. I actually, for the life of me, can't remember the name of it, but I'm silhouetting this little sketch that I did. This is actually a commissioned work for someone that lives in Jersey. So basically they told me the name of the lighthouse, and I've just gone and like sketched it out a little bit, and now I'm doing the dark darks of a silhouette with a nice black. I think it's can't remember the name of the black either. I'll link all the colours that I used down in the description. But yeah, now I'm going in with like a nice supple red. I believe it's Alizarin Crimson, and I'm going in and painting this lighthouse with a flake white hue and Alizarin Crimson, right? So just using a nice normal sort of square brush to do this. Again, really thick paint. I haven't watered the paint down at all with linseed oil, right? And I'm getting my mouse stick out, mostly for moral support, if anything else. When I'm doing, you know, like finicky work, you know, I like to have my mouse stick there to grab onto, you know, as a de-stressor, right? And the reason I'm leaving the room now is to get little cotton buds. Okay, cotton buds are your best friend when you're doing detail work because you can mop up any mistakes that you make with the cotton buds, and you can also use it to apply paint. You can use absolutely anything to apply paint. It doesn't need to be a brush. It can be a cotton swab. It can be, you know, like kitchen roll. It can be your finger. You know, you can finger paint all you want as long as it gets paint on the canvas. That's the main thing. That's what you want. And so if you're doing that and you're achieving your goal, who cares if it's not a brush? Use whatever you want. In this particular instance, I am using these cotton buds to actually put in the blacks of the lighthouse windows. And now I'm going in with a fine detail brush and, you know, painting like the blues of the sky and the black railing of the lighthouse. And again, not watered down. A lot of people like to water down with linseed oil when they're doing detail work. It depends on the circumstance, but oftentimes, again, I like to leave the paint thick. I feel like I have more control that way. As you can see, I had put down masking tape to protect my horizon and keep it straight while I was applying the paint to the sky. I've now taken that off so that I now have a straight horizon line. So when I'm doing the sea, the horizon line is nice and straight, okay? But I do want to smudge that out a little bit, okay, and blend it, you know, also to get rid of the chalk that I use for, you know, just the little sketch at the beginning. So I will be doing that, but right now I'm just applying my first coat of Ultramarine Blue and Coldwax medium. Now, I love thick in pastel painting, and I love thick in pastel seas in particular. Now, the reason I love Coldwax is because it's transparent. It makes like a slightly transparent, sort of like almost luminosity to the impasto work that you're doing. So right now this is Paynes Grey and Ultramarine Blue and Coldwax medium that I'm using for the sort of waves that are starting to form here. And this is a really, really fun technique because you can essentially just layer and layer and layer all of this thick paint, and it's just great fun. And the tool that I'm using there, I'm pretty sure it's a baking tool. I think it's just like something that you would use to like scrape up dough in a kitchen. So like basically a big paddle, but you could use absolutely anything. Again, you could use really any sort of thick paddle-like object that you have at your disposal, wherever or whatever you may be using that for. I don't want to guess or assume. So I'm just using this sort of like big paddle thingy to add in my extremely thick impasto oil paint here. And this oil paint, like I'm more using it again for the texture. The texture is really cool with that, with an impasto technique like this. I've tried liquid impasto before, didn't really like it. I mean, it's okay for some techniques, but not for this. And also, I've used to take chalk, grind up chalk and put it in paintings, but you know, yeah, it does thicken up your paint, but again, you lose that luminosity and transparency that Coldwax gives you. So as you can see, I've now taken a Cadmium Orange and mixed it with Coldwax, and now I'm applying that into the centre, which I kept bare of blue. So because I want that orange to be thick. If I had put blue in there, it wouldn't have been as saturated and orangey as it should be. So I've kept the blue bit bare. Or sorry, I've kept the middle bit bare of blue. And now I'm adding in my Naples Yellow. Just for the little je ne sais quoi. Just to highlight the middle part there. And now I'm just gently, softening the edges of that sun, reflecting, just so it homogenizes with the rest of the waves, just blending it out with my finger. Because again, finger painting works, like it's a nice, soft, subtle way to, just blend everything out. And I'm applying paint with my finger, and basically doing finishing touches. And that's the end result. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.